Oh man, so awesome to talk with you. It's been so long. I feel, what was the last time we were able to like get on board and chat?
I think it was the winter solstice.
Yeah, and that was beautiful. So thanks for putting that together. What have you got going on new? You've been like traveling all over the place, doing all these amazing things.
I don't even know. There's been a lot happening this year. I just got back from Mexico City, but I went to got to go to Teotihuacan. That was really fun and interesting. And I don't know about our viewers here. Because I know a lot of our viewers tend to come with us or talk with us having to do with relationships and receptivity and that type of thing. But I'm really in a place of where I travel because I want to understand the origins of the universe, right? I don't know how much that is like a normal thing for people to think about, but for me, it consumes my mind.
I love it.
Yeah, and so I just really like to travel for like kind of just like an archaeologist would to go see and find all this information out there that we don't see. We only get sometimes half versions, and sometimes it's just like to stand in that place gives you a lot of that energy that you can feel from it more than reading it in the books.
Yeah, and then for those of us who aren't able to be there, your deck really captures that energy of a space that I think is relevant to a lot of what we'll be talking about today. But you offer a reflection point based on your experience of that energy. Yeah, and it was so wild that I grabbed it. I was like, I've got to get this deck out. I've got it sitting here too. Because you bring the energy to us. And it's an opportunity to either journal, sit and meditate, or find a new perspective in a moment, which is huge when you're manifesting, making changes, or clearing the clutter in your brain. So thank you for putting that out for us out in the universe.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying the cards. That's what they were meant for. It took about 2 to 3, actually like 3 years for me to make the deck, and I'm still adding cards here and there as I go. And they really are, because if you really think about it, we are all still all connected, and just because you can't sit in a specific place and meditate on that space, it still transverse all over. And at that moment of a time, maybe we're happy. Like, for instance, I just recently manifested a job, and I didn't know if I had it, and I pulled the card from my deck, my own soul compass deck, and it said, you made it, you feel accomplished, it's time to relax. And I was like, so it knew it before I did. I didn't know. I still thought like, oh, I have to wait to see if I got the job. And it all worked out. A week later I found out that it was right.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm just totally impressed with your ability to manifest, whether it is putting out cards, the gifts that you put out to the universe, or your ability to get so clear about what you will and will not accept that then allows you to manifest. That kind of brings me like my first idea, and you can correct me, like I'm totally open to that. But like the first part of manifesting something new is having clarity, like your Dear Santa letter. If you're running a business, it's your mission, your vision, whether it's a vision board or whatever it is, it's that initial framework to say, this is what I want and what I do not want. Like, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
I mean, I really think my ability to make anything for Divine Scarlet for my side work is just comes from a place of passion. So
Mm,
it's not that hard for me to get clear on what I want. And even I'm like one of those people, like, some people say songwriters are like this. I know like Kurt Cobain used to be like this, where they said, I'm going to make this song and I don't care if anybody listens to it, but I'm going to make it because this is my passion and I love it. And that's
mm,
what I do. And I know the people who need it will find it. So I'm not necessarily here to make a ton of money. I actually don't really, I want to love money. I can make more of it, but it's not my whole process. It's not in my process where I like making it. I hope the people who need it find it, but I'm in it for the passion to help people. And I think I need a little bit more gauging on make more money with your side projects. But I love that I, you know, like one time somebody said this to me. They said, you always want to like cleanse your bracelets that you get and stuff like that when you buy them, because you don't know if that person made it out of need and survival mode, and it might have a little bit of that energy left on it. So I really try to make sure everything that I make doesn't come from that place of survival mode.
That's huge. That's huge. And you're able to, even in that place of, let's move from that survival mode, but creating your stability, whether it's manifesting a job, but you're also able to like step up and own it in business at work and say, it's time for a raise. It's time to renegotiate what I will not accept in the job place. How do you find that within yourself, and how would you recommend others initiate that conversation?
Oh, this one. Okay, so I really have to go with feeling. As you see, the moon is behind me. This was my thing to always remember this year was to feel, to reflect. Sometimes we're like go go go. We don't check in with ourselves and say, is this what I really want? Is this what I really need? We're just saying, okay, this is what we're stuck with now, um, and I'm gonna have to deal with it. So I feel like when that happens and your brain can't, or your feeling doesn't align with it, it's like you're going two ways, right? Like you're split in half. So you're never going to get that exact thing that you want if one of you is going this way and the other's going that way. So I really feel like it's alignment between how you're feeling and what you're thinking. And I rely more on the feeling than thinking, because I think our minds are like,
Yes, we can totally get in our own way and trip ourselves up. And so I feel like part of it, once you've made that decision for a change to manifest, it is getting out of your own way. And it sounds like you have a beautiful ability to be able to do that, because we can let our thoughts, I think, who is it? Mel Robbins talks about this in her talk of stop screwing yourself over. She's like, sometimes you have that. She uses it the 5 second rule. It's like what you're talking about with feelings. You're like, you have this inertia to make a change. You have this inertia to reach out and give someone a hug or pick up the phone or say, you know what, I'm going to apply for that job or whatever it is. The list can go on. And she's like, if you don't go with that feeling, that inertia, then you pull the emergency brake, and that's your brain kicking in saying, oh, wait up, and all that clutter that talks you out of how wonderful you are and how many possibilities are here.
yeah. And I remember even like back, I mean, I barely reached a good place of like where I'm not in survival mode at all until the last, I don't know, handful of years. But let's say like when I in my later 20s, early 30s, I still, I thought I had grounding, but then the next thing you know, something crazy would happen that I didn't know. Like the house that I lived in that I rented would say one day, oh, we're selling the house now. You have a month to get out. And then that would put me into, oh my God, survival mode, survival mode. And then it's like, I'm not saying you can't manifest in survival mode. I do think you can, but I just try to do it from a different place now. And that actually works too. There's been times where my car has broken down, and literally my first thought was stress, stress, stress. Now what do I do? What do I do? I have to go to work. I'm stuck at home. And I was in meditation class during this time, and I literally went back into the house and I said, no, you're not going to stress out. You're going to go back and you're going to meditate. I meditated 20 minutes, came back out, and look, crazy stuff happens to me. I don't know if this happens to you too. There was a mechanic working on my neighbor's car next door, and he approaches me and he's like, are you having problems with your car? I'll help you fix it. Like where did you fall out of the air from? Like stuff like that happens to me all the time, where it's just like, what? Is this a make-believe world?
It totally is. It's just we get in our own way. Our heads talk us out of it. Like I don't know. I think sometimes like that wanting it to show up in the 3D so much, but then that fear mentality, that survival mode, it blocks it, because not only is that something different biochemically in our bodies and our brains and the way that we're wired, it also changes the frequency of which you can, I feel like, receive at the level you need to work in these other realms. Um, I could be wrong on that, but I feel like, just like you're talking about, like with the jewelry, it's like another energy attached to it. Am I making this choice because I'm afraid of what may or may not happen, or am I open and saying, I trust you, God, I'm going to sit still with this, and look what shows up at your door, like a human to save the day.
And that kind of stuff happens to me a lot. Like, even I was just talking with you about manifesting this last job I had. I did it in this complete, like, I'm not going to go back to work full time. It was my boundary. It was my imagination and my feelings saying no, 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 to all of it. It's like having a sense of freedom that I didn't get to taste before. I'm not going driving to work every day, not having a 9 to 5, not doing that, and saying, oh, I like this. This is awesome. Actually, this is what I've been trying to manifest my whole life. So I'm going to take advantage of this, and doing a good job at it. And then realizing when it was time to actually say no. Sure, it hurt during the time. I'm like, I'm leaving all my friends at work. I'm leaving all my clients who I love. I'm leaving, and which it was sad. I really did cry for like a day or two, like off and on. And I just was like, with every ending, you're gonna be sad. But usually I would say 95% of the time, I'm not saying every single time, but 95% of the time, to me at least, you're always going to step into something better, even if you
I
can't.
I agree, because it's like that 8 of cups. You have to walk away from something. You have to walk away from that codependency. You have to walk away from that comfort zone. And it's like, if you hold to that and latch on to what you know, you don't open the door to something else. And there's that process of getting clear, clearing out, but then allowing it. And for me, sometimes I make my decisions based on those signs and synchronicities, or it's reaffirming, I might get that intuitive nudge. Look at this, go do this. And then I'm like, oh wow, that, like the last department I was in, that was totally guided there. And that apartment number and the suite number of my current job, they're the same numbers. So it's like me just going, okay, I'm where I need to be. And then kind of moving along that way, kind of like stepping stones
Oh,
of
that's really interesting.
yeah, what signs and synchronicities are showing up, and doing my best not to overthink it. Because it's so easy to be like, wait, but wait, why, what?
Yeah, and I mean, there's always the time where you are gonna go in between that fear state, and because every time there's a level up, like let's say Mario Brother, and I like to refer to Mario Brothers all the time.
Yes, me too, me too. You get your
So
extra man, you can try again. Sorry.
like, okay, I'm leveling up right now, but there's a nervousness within that leveling up period that you kind of have to like balance and be like, oh my God, can I do this? And you kind of have to just talk your brain into saying, yes, I can do this. Yes, it's affirmations, and you might not believe it at first, but you just keep doing it and stepping up, and eventually then it goes away. Like, I'll even give an example of this job that I just got right now. The first week I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? This is horrible. And I'm also working for a really big firm, which I'm not used to working for a huge firm like this. So it's got everybody who's famous in it. Like, so I started getting nervous, like maybe I'm not good enough. And I got that super ego or whatever in my head going, shut up. No, you got this, and so now this week I'm in it like 2 to 3 weeks later, I'm not having those feelings anymore. So there is that period where you can't judge yourself because you're having those feelings. Is when you level up, that is just how you do feel unstable. It's like you're on one step but still on that other step, and you're sliding in between both.
It's interesting you say that, because I feel like in one of my readings I was talking about that leap of faith energy. If you watch a squirrel in a tree, now I'm here in Maryland, I don't know what, different
We have
places.
squirrels here.
I know squirrels, but it's like that animal, like just like there's different birds, like they might function different than the way I see a squirrel. Is like jumping from one limb to the next. How do they trust that limb to catch them? Do you know what I mean? Like they make that leap. And do you think they question that? Like we question our thoughts. No, they go for it. That limb even like bounces and they still keep going, it's wild.
Yeah.
Um,
I've actually never seen a squirrel fall out of a tree, so I guess they're good at it.
yeah. And so why are we so afraid to make changes that we're going to fail? Like the fear of failure is that anchor that keeps someone from lifting their anchor and changing course in the trajectory of their life.
And I really think that's what you and I have much in common about, is wanting to help the people who, because we've had that. We've been those people. And, of course, we all go through it here and there again. It's not like we did it, we're done, we're done. It's like, no, okay, every time with a new step and a new thing, you have new challenges. And I pulled this card earlier for our discussion, and it just says obstacles, overcome it or find another way, right? So it's not about life not having obstacles. It's about learning how to guide yourself through them. Or maybe if that obstacle is too big, maybe that's not for you. I really feel like sometimes you have to find that way, that it's like a clearing, like a river that flows for you, not beating your head on this rock.
I think that's huge because I feel like the obstacles can present new opportunities for growth. Whether you say, okay, I'm going to call on my courage, I'm going to feel my fear, and I'm going to do it anyway. Like I am going to find something internal that's going to drive me forward. Or you look at that obstacle and you're like, I think I'm being redirected. Am I going to bust my ass in this direction? Or is that a sign that says, try this path instead? And
Mm-hmm.
that's a little tricky to navigate what's happening internally and externally to know what steps to take and what's right and appropriate for you at the time.
Yeah, and I really think that has a lot to do with finding that answer is different for everybody.
Hmm.
And it has a lot to do with intuition and trusting that intuition, where I know it takes some time to hear it and it takes some time to trust it, but it is there and it is telling you. And if you can't tell if it's your mind or your feeling, I would say, what's your percentage on this? I would really feel like most of the time, if it's a fear-based thing, it's again, it can be either, because sometimes I've known some women who go like, oh, I know this is going to go wrong with this relationship, but it is a intuitive feeling of a red flag, and they do feel it. And it's that weird space of, am I self-sabotaging this, or am I just getting that red flag in my intuition? And that's a real hard one to navigate. So I'm not saying there's one answer for all. It's really, really getting into and really staying quiet in your mind and learning to trust your intuition.
Yeah, I think two parts is learning how you receive guidance, and that's different for us. It's almost like the superheroes, like everyone has their little gifts, like you have your power and together we we make shit happen. And then there's another part of like meditation isn't, to me in my mind, about stopping the thoughts. Like I've taught meditation and yoga and people are like, I can't do it, I can't do yoga, I can't. Yes, you can. We just have to find the right fit for you and you have to find what works for you. To me it's about learning how does your brain work so that if you get something else that comes in, that's my thought. Oh no, that's divine communication. Oh, that's my fear popping up. Oh, that's my mental chatter. Is learning your own layers and the way your brain works to then decode intuitive hits.
Yeah, there's many people I know who just have the same mind chatter again and again and again. And I think when you're untrained, and to look at yourself as an observer and yourself and seeing that these two things are going on at once, you might think you are going in circles and crazy all the time. So it's easy to run in that circle, or a lot of people call it that monkey mind, but it's like you're literally going in a loop. And I really feel like learning to be a good a good human being, whatever that means, is learning. To me, you can take all the classes in the world, and you can get all the jobs that you want, but I mean, there's something that can navigate you through all of it, and that is learning how to pick apart the difference between your mind thoughts and your true, like, conscious soul
Mm.
sort of thoughts. And I feel like no matter how many degrees a person has, no matter what they do, if you have that and you learn that, I'm not saying it comes overnight, it's definitely work. Yeah, that's one of the most beautiful things I think anybody could give themselves.
Mm, I agree. I agree. And I think that's the place when you're able to find red flag versus green light. And that's hard. And you mentioned women specifically. And I think this is the gift of your breakup deck, is to help someone navigate from going back into that loop, back into that comfort zone of that unhealthy relationship, and saying, pause, let's redirect our thoughts, let's find a new possibility so that we can be in the here and now and not return back to those unhealthy patterns. That's
Yeah.
huge. That's a huge gift you've given.
Well, I hope, I mean, there's a handful of people who do like it, and I know that it has reached certain women, and even in readings for readers who have bought the cards, and that's exactly what I want. I mean, I went through a breakup, and that's the reason I created that deck, and I was like, what good does it for us to just question ourselves? Why didn't he like me? What's wrong with me? Why didn't this work out? That's a question that goes nowhere. That's like, that's just a loop cycle. And there could be so many reasons. I mean, you guys could be perfect together. Maybe we're still only supposed to learn a lesson together. You guys could have bad timing but be great together. I mean, there could be so many things. And what makes you think just because you're not right for this person makes you lack in any kind of way, you know?
Mm, that's huge. That's huge. Ooh, that's a big like,
I
because
said that
that
kind of fast, and I should have just.
I know, because I think that even happens in the job world. Like, let's say you started a business, it didn't work, and now you got to pick back up. That whole rebuilding process and getting over that funk, or what's cast onto you. And again, this goes back to your mental chatter. There is so much to that, to rebuilding yourself. But in the process, you find something within yourself you didn't know you had. Like you're talking about the soul thought versus other thoughts. It's like your soul knew you signed up for this. We knew you could handle it. Now get out there and do your thing.
Yeah, and I suffer from right now. Probably my biggest thing with my side company is wanting to advertise. I have this is my one difficulty, where my one side goes one way, and I'll admit this, and my other side goes the other way. I do not like social media. And I feel like it wastes my time. Have I found a handful of amazing people on social media? Yes, like you're one of them. I have like a handful of people I love from social media. But a lot of it is just sort of this time waster. And I mean, these days I watch movies and everybody's like, hashtag this, hashtag. And I just feel like there's a part of it that makes me feel that it's not soul connecting. And I mean, I do keep in contact with the people who, of course, matter, but or I found on the internet somehow, some way, and I love them. But I don't know. I just feel like there's something about it that lightens the whole thing. And as we know, marketing kind of just plays to people's weaknesses in a way. And I really want my stuff to just be out there because somebody needs it, or it would fit their time in their life that they need it. Just like when we go and buy a deck and we're looking through them all and one says buy me, and it's not because that person pushed it on us, it's because our soul's connecting to that thing at the moment. And that's kind of the way that I like to work. I just want that connection. I'm sure somebody who's looking for it can find it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that that intention is huge, the mission and vision of whatever you're creating and putting out. I like to believe that it all connects and you'll receive it, the clients that are right for you, the people that are right for you. I feel like it all comes into play. when you're at the right frequency with the pure intent, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's also times where there's a balance between how much you can do and when you get tired and giving yourself a break for that and all that stuff.
Yeah. And I appreciate that you're speaking to side hustle versus your stability in your job, and sometimes that is the correct and appropriate balance to allow these other things to come out with pure intent. The like no harm, no foul either way anyone wants to create, but I don't think there's any shame. I think Craig, in the last talk we did, I don't know at what point we were talking about this, but we were talking about jobs and integrity, and he said there was something very valuable in having a way to take care of your family. Like, so whatever that paycheck comes in, if you can feed your family, there's something to that. And I just, that really really stuck with me after he said that. I don't know if you remember that
Yeah, he's
part.
so family oriented. No, he is. He's from a big family, and he's kind of the man of the house, I guess you can say. And he's also trying to stay in integrity to himself and not get a 9 to 5 and do what he wants. So he's in that balance of that. We all are in our own balance of whatever we're doing. And do you know how good it feels? The difference is I may make a whole bunch of money at my regular job and I get the paycheck and I'm like, cool. But even the smallest amount of money that I make on my side work, that's my passion, feels so much better to me. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I do. I don't know how to speak to this. Because this is part, you talked about like going two ways. I don't always feel in alignment with the current position I'm in. And I am so excited about the sale of my first deck. Like, I am ready to launch. I have 3 decks to
Oh, you
publish.
better let me buy that. I'm gonna be first.
Good. I have 3 ready to launch. I have 1 more I just paid for publishing that should be on its way. And I have a book that someone's kindly editing for me so that the ebook. And so, like, all 4 of these are about to go out into the world, and I'm super excited. And I can't imagine just the anticipation of like the first sale. Like, at first, I was kind of afraid. Like, I don't know how to set up an e-store. I don't know, I don't know all these little fine details. But
Yeah.
I'm past that fear, and I'm in excitement of like,
Yeah, you
this
learn
is
as you go with
happening.
that. Yeah, yeah. And I've never done multiple things at once. I can only wrap my head around one thing at a time. I have a new deck. I have a new deck. It's ready. And I haven't printed it yet though. But I'm kind of having it made on my site. So if anybody wants to go to my Divine Scarlet site, it's not perfect yet, but you can play with the deck online to get yourself a little acquainted with the deck. I would probably start printing in about a month. So if you like the deck online, you can, but it's kind of fun to play with it online first and pick a card online and say, oh, like this deck's speaking to me or not. Um, anyways,
Yeah.
so it's about the houses, like how each person evolves through the houses of our astrological houses. You do not need to know astrology to use these cards. It's just another one of those, am I in this moment? What kind of house am I, showing right now? Because sometimes it's time to build, right? Sometimes we need to build ourselves. That would be like the second house. Sometimes it's time to let things go and die and let it transform. And then we'd be in the 8th house. You don't need to know what houses it is to know what you're going through, right? So it's called Becoming is the deck name.
Oh, beautiful. I look forward to that. And that sounds also not only a good way for self-reflection and growth, also a good way to actually learn. Like, I appreciate that you're saying you don't already have to know,
Oh
but I
yeah.
feel like through your insights, yeah. And
What are
you
your
have such a
decks
good way
called?
of,
What are
I
your decks
have,
called? I'm not to like I'll put the name on it and we'll put a little link on here. So
well, I have the divination deck, so that's the playing card deck. I have the love and light messages and the empowerment deck. I'm excited about the empowerment deck. I did this a little bit differently. So it's 44 messages on one side, just like a word or phrase, on the other side, a reflection question. I have eight, I think it's 8 cards that are blank. And so I was like, this is an empowerment deck. How can it truly be an empowerment deck if I hand all the cards over? So here's some blank ones
For you.
for you to write in what feels right. And I tested it on with Sharpie. It works. It doesn't run off. It's a plastic finish. So it works. I'm excited about that. I'm excited.
Oh, that sounds so fun. I love it. I have had like this lull in decks that I haven't bought anything, but I am gonna buy those.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, and I hear what you're saying about one calls to you or you get pulled to one. It's funny how that works, and you gravitate toward it, and it gives you what you need, or you're able to help someone else through it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here, but I don't know. Do you want to go ahead? And I was thinking about, sometimes we lightly spoke about finding that synchronicity and how do we navigate through knowing it's the right path, right?
mhm.
And sometimes we don't. And so I pulled this card out of the Soul Compass deck, which I do. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I did.
Beautiful.
So this one is, and I've been here, so I know exactly what it felt like. It says a gateway to higher knowledge and power is open to you. Walk through it, the dimensional portal to receive it. And this is at Gate of the Gods in Peru. Now, this is I'll tell you a little bit of history of why this is such an important place. Is nobody knows why it was built. Nobody knows
Okay.
who built it. And if you can see very closely, it's a mountain with a door that goes nowhere. So why would somebody build a door that goes nowhere in a mountain and take that much time to create that? And if you look really closely, there is a little round circular thing in the middle of the door. A lot of shamans are all around there, saging you, cleansing you, and they really believe that this is a mystical portal into another land that at one time when the conquistadors came, I mean, before the conquistadors came and settled in that land that, or took the land, is there used to be priests or shamans that would travel back and forth into these different dimensional portals. And this is of course theory, and that they say that they didn't want the conquistadors to find it, so the last shaman took that little circular thing with him that opened the door with him so nobody could pass through it anymore. So there's some people who go down there and actually meditate right there or behind the rock, and they see that they can feel things like a city behind there. And this is just I just want to tell a little story about it, just because that's the feeling that it gave me when I sat there. It's like, oh my God, there's this amazing thing. And I mean, if it didn't mean anything, why would somebody spend all that time making it, right? You go to the other side of the mountain, there's nothing there. It's not like it opens up into a cave or anything. So we have to always remember there's the things unseen to us that are there. And sometimes those messages, even though we can't tell them, can't see them right there like wind, could be whispering something in our ear. We just have to be open to that receptivity. Again, being more feeling in tune, moon-like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I know a lot of us go with the numbers. Oh, I saw 333, I saw 222, and I think that that's the thing too. I mean, sometimes I catch them every day. Especially my favorite one is 444. When my parents were in the hospital, and I was like freaking out, 444 kept coming up every day for me,
Wow.
and I just felt like there was definitely somebody helping me. There was somebody, past ancestors, or maybe my godfather who passed on a few years back, like he was there, or I just felt very close to something, and
Yeah.
I don't know in which ways you might recommend people seeing it, but I think it comes in so many ways that we can't even just tell you. It would just mean something to you because that thing.
Right. And I feel like once you're open to it, like you're willing to explore another dimension, you're willing to see another perception, when you're willing to listen, I think it comes through to you in different ways. for me, when I go on my walks and I see a feather, I'm like, ooh, I'm on the right path. Now, sometimes when I see that synchronicity, I see that number, I see that thing, there is that moment of something else happening. I try to pay attention to my thoughts to then take it to the next level. I did have something that happened the other day. I like to be on foot. And so like I can walk to work from where I live now. I can walk to the grocery store. I love it. Just put my backpack, probably think I don't like don't have a place to live or or a car, but I'm just like, let me go to the grocery store, put my backpack on. And at the crosswalk, they were playing cards out in the street. And I was just like, what? And so then of course I'm looking at the playing cards, which ones are face up and which ones are face, I didn't turn any, but I was like looking around to kind of dissect that. And so to me that's like, okay, right path. But I've also had moments where my intuition was a warning, where I took it as a green light. And I think for me that's been the hardest point in exploring intuition, where I would just like shut it down. Like I would get intuitive hits, I would ignore it. And then I would be in this clusterfuck of a moment going, if I had listened to that, I would be where I am right now. But I also had those signs of like, warning, you've been here before, you know, like lots of deja vu kind of things. And I was like, oh, this must be a green light for this relationship. No, after going through that, that was a red flag of spirit going, wait, slow this down, honey. you know, I also speak with other women exploring their intuition of where do you learn to listen to your intuition when trauma is involved? And that's like even deeper than fear. And I'm not trying to minimize anyone's experience, but chemically that changes you, or that block then gets put up, or at least I've found that in myself, because my first intuitive hit was part of trauma. And so then I was like not willing to allow any more visions, because the vision I got was a clear warning sign. And I was like scared of any intuition coming my way after that. And that was at a very young age. And so I shut it down for many years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I do believe, I know there's so many people, there's so many things about manifesting online. There's so many teachers talking about manifesting. I've taken about 3 classes in manifesting, and I also have gone through ritual magic for a few years as well. So I kind of put them all together and kind of the way that I work. And I think they go with each other. And I noticed one of my manifesting teachers, or my main one, she says, which I'm not sure if I totally believe. This is the one thing that I kind of disagree with her about, because my past is more in psychology. That's kind of where I come from. And she says, if you have something wrong with you, don't pay attention to it and just do the thing that flows to you first. And so for me, I had a lot of problems with men, finding somebody that was good for me, because I hadn't got to that stage yet where I felt healthy yet. So I just decided to pick the other one. I picked money, and I was like, I thought I had a problem with getting money, apparently not. And I was like, oh, this one's super easy. Like, who would have ever thought? I just put no time in it. to getting money before, and this makes life easier. Great. And then once that happened to me, and I do have to say they sort of connect here, even though love and money are different, the worth issue connects. And so once I was able to do that, the other one sort of just fell into place. And I noticed for a lot of women, though, if you have had, something severe happen to you, which I was one of those people before where I was traumatized. I still actually get bad dreams of my relationship 10 years ago, where I'm just like, how did that ever happen? It only was a year long, but I have nightmares like, oh my God, I'm still with that person. It's freaking me out. And so I don't know if there's ever a place where it's going to be completely gone, but I think there's a way to separate yourself from that, at least to a point of where you're okay. How long? I mean, I know for some women it could be years. And I do think that you do have to stay in that space a little bit and try to dissect it. Or as that manifestation teacher said, don't worry about that. I tend to think myself that you can explore into that area. or you'll get blocked there again and again. I don't know how you feel about that. I know this is probably just like some of it works, some of it doesn't. It can work, any of it can work for you depending on the person.
I think it really depends on the person and the situations. Like that, I have fear and I'm going to do it anyway. That is one example of, not looking at it, that it helps you. And in the case of, I'm not going to look at, chasing a relationship, I'm going to work on my stability. That creates a firm foundation to have a healthy connection. I think that's awesome. At the same time, I feel like there's like, no matter where I go, there I am. And it's like spirit mirrors back to you, or a situation or relationship. And you're like, oh, I've been ignoring this shadow aspect. I've been ignoring this piece of me that is calling for love and attention. And until I give it that love and attention, it's going to seep out in funny ways. I mean, you and I were talking about a trip, and all of a sudden I'm like, emergency brake, no, freak out mode. And I didn't know really what was happening at the time. But since I have looked at that place in myself that had that fear of not just traveling, but being out in public, and this has nothing to do with COVID, and all that, but just being afraid to be out and about. Really was in high gear. So I appreciate your patience with me with that, but it's like until it's given attention, you're going to put up your own roadblocks, but you have to be ready for it. And it's like, how many times am I going to stumble over the same lesson? How many times you're going to keep, staying on that wheel until you say, I'm going to pause, reflect, and redirect? Or how is spirit going to redirect you? Like, I can't take it. Like, spirit be throwing some tower moments until you look at stuff, it's like, okay, it's time to take a look and move on.
Life to me is a challenge, and I feel like if you don't rise to the challenge, you're just denying living, like you're denying living into a way, and it's we've all, I don't know how lately death has come into my life where my mom's husband died, or my stepdad died. And so when you start seeing that, and thankfully he lived his life where he risked things. He didn't wait till retirement to enjoy his life. He lived a full life, had kids, um and I just, it just reminds me, just always live, just be alive while you're alive. Live while you're alive, and some people are so scared to make any kind of choice that it makes them in some kind of inertia state where they're not really truly living.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how we do that to ourselves? We captivate ourselves in our own fear rather than transcending. What do they say? Public speaking, we're more afraid of being seen than death.
I I mean, that's what I ultimately think that I need to do, is I need to go on a stage and present work. And there's part of me, I'm getting used to this now. This used to freak me out. And now I'm used to it. But even that is like a big step. Each step is like, okay, okay, I can do this. Okay. But yeah, the second I used to hit record on Zoom, I used to be like,
Is I am in a training online in Zoom. I do have the problem with being on screen in this whole group, because I can take my notes, or maybe I fold my laundry, or move around. There is something really awkward about being on screen that way. It's that I do feel uncomfortable with that for sure.
yeah. That's why you got that cute little like stop recording. I'm just a picture now.
Right.
um, but yeah, I mean, let's see, what were you talking about? This manifesting, and did we cover everything? Anyway, I just think it's really beautiful to, talk with you and always stay in that receptive state, because a lot of us are like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do every day to stay in this? And sometimes it's like, no, what do I need not to do?
Yeah. And I think you made a good point about social media of being a time waster. It's just like you have to commit your time to, preparing your meals, for example, or cleaning your house. Like there might be time that you commit to not doing something to give yourself room to connect and
Mhm.
be. So
Yeah,
that's
this year I think I'm going to do a little bit of an overhaul with my whole thing, and I'd really like to do more of these with you, and maybe, do workshop is what's calling my heart right now, and I think that I need to drop some other things in order to do that. Clear space, as they say, get rid of it first, and then not that I won't do it again. I'm going to pick up on it later, but I just want some space to create that next thing. And you sound like you're super busy launching all this next stuff too. So
yeah, I'm excited. I am back teaching yoga again. It feels so good.
you're in
I
person
just
again?
yes, and I got asked to sub, and I was like just standing there teaching, and it was like, oh, I miss this. I just like every part from like feeling my feet on the floor to being in community, and exploring the practice. I was like, oh, I missed this, and having first event in a long time with Kathy Valentine. So Kathy was instrumental. My daughter and I were in the Out of Darkness walk, and there is a minimum donation amount, no different than the AIDS ride. There's a minimum amount to participate. And we didn't meet the mark. And Kathy helped me raise money with an event, and we did a few other events after that, raising money. So first we did the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We raised money for that, and then for breast cancer awareness. And so this one we're working on Divine Path, and we'll actually be at my grandfather's property, who's since passed, but we'll be right there on the water and in person. And I really think you'd be amazing at running groups and doing
Yeah.
breakoff groups. And,
Well, that's
and
one of the things that, we can talk about that in a little bit after this. But yeah, no, that's one of the things that I think that I've always, well, before COVID, we were starting to talk about. And then, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Life
So,
changed.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been awesome to connect as always, and looking forward to all the possibilities in the future that feel right.
And yes, yes, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this. And for anybody watching, we'll stick up Crystal's cards, the names of them, so you can look for those. And I'll put up my link for my Becoming Through the Houses, Astrological Houses deck. And you can just play with it right now. It's up on Wix, my site, on divinescarlet.com. You can play with it, and it's still getting revised. The person's working on it, but you can still play with it. And I'll start having those come out in the next month or two. So yeah, lots of fun stuff to look forward to, and hopefully you'll hear from us soon too. And we'll do another one of these. And thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Awesome.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, stop.